True surrender is not proven by how loud you shout it, but how deeply you live it. Surrender to the Holy Spirit is not a fleeting feelings or a mere language of confession. It is the posture of obedience. It is when your yes to God goes beyond your lips and it is revealed in your actions. Surrender means that whether it is convenient or not, whether it makes sense to your flesh or not, your answer to the voice of God remains obedience. Look at Jesus on the cross of Calvary. In that painful hour, when every nerve in his body screamed against the will of God, he still chose the path of surrender. Jesus says in Luke 22, verse 42, he says, "Nevertheless, but not my will, but thine be done." That was not just a prayer, it was surrender in its purest form. That was obedience at its highest cost. And this is where many of us struggle. We think surrender is the lifting up of hands during worship or in the confession of our mouth during prayer. But surrender is tested when the will of God crosses the desires of our hearts. Surrender is tested when the instructions of God demand sacrifice. It is tested when following God demands that you endure discomfort, laying down ambition, forgiving when it hurts, or walking away even though it costs you a lot of things. The measure of your surrender is not in how much you agree with God when things are easy, but in how much you obey Him when things are hard. Now listen, the cross will always confront your comforts. Also, the Spirit will always challenge your flesh. And the question will always remain this: will you choose God's will above yours at this state? Surrender is not weakness, it is the strongest decision you can ever make as a believer. Because on the other side of surrender is resurrection. On the other side of obedience is glory. On the other side of not my will is it is finished. Until you're able to come to a point where you say the same thing like Jesus, that not my will, you cannot end in the same point like Jesus to say it is finished. Think about it. Jesus would have taken a comfort in the land of Gethsemane. But if Jesus did, the cross wouldn't have happened, and the empty tomb would never have been spoken of. The crown of thorns was painful, but beyond it was the crown of glory. The shame of the cross was bitter, but beyond it was the joy of resurrection. Make up your mind today, even when it costs, even when it stretches, even when it breaks your heart, your answer to God will be obedience. That is surrender.